Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to our fourth community forum from the Commission on the State of Hate. I'm going to go ahead and review some of our rules. So, welcome to the Commission on the State of Hate's fourth community forum of 2025. Review process. Closed captioning is available for this meeting. The closed captions can be displayed in English or another language, which will allow you to view an automated live transcript of the meeting in another language. To display closed captions on your screen, please do the following. Click the button labeled Show Captions at the bottom of your Zoom window. Select the box at the bottom of the window labeled Enable Translation. When you see you've enabled translation at the top, select English as a speaking language and select your preferred language in the second menu. Click Save. Automated captions in your selected language should start appearing at the bottom of the Zoom window. To access the interpreter channel, click on the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a globe. Select Spanish. After selecting your language, you will automatically switch to the interpreter's channel for that language. If you wish to return to the main meeting audio, click the interpretation icon again and select Off. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Commission on the State of Hate's fourth community forum. The title of the forum tonight is As We Approaches to Addressing Hate in Rural Northern California. And at this time, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. Sekasin, and good evening, commissioners, presenters, and the public. My name is Regina Cuellar. I am the chairwoman of the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians. It is an honor to offer this land acknowledgement on behalf of the Commission on the State of Hate. We gather today on the unceded ancestral homelands of the 9 northern bands of the Wintu people, in what is now the present-day area of the Redding Rancheria, a federally recognized tribe of this region. Let us honor them by acknowledging, remembering, and elevating the rich cultures, traditions, histories, and luminous futures of the tribes of the region who are present in these spaces today and who continue to be the original guardians and caretakers of this land. As we come together in this forum with the responsibility of strengthening California's efforts to stop hate and promote mutual respect among California's diverse populations, let us do so with the utmost reverence and with the best of intentions in a way that pays tribute to the Wintu people and their ancestors, elders, and descendants. Aho. Thank you. The Commission of the State of Hate was established to strengthen California's efforts to combat hate and promote respect among its diverse population. The Commission's primary responsibilities include reporting on hate activity, publishing a rigorous, comprehensive account of hate activity throughout California each year, research and fact-finding, investigating the causes and impacts of hate-related conduct, engaging communities, hosting public forums to discuss the state of hate, providing resources and guidance, offering support to communities and government officials on how to effectively reduce and respond to hate activity. This forum is part of a series of events and research efforts by the Commission to understand and develop solutions for stopping hate in all its forms. Our previous events and research efforts have examined how hate targets Californians' many diverse communities, including Indigenous Californians, people with disabilities, communities of color, California's Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities, and the LGBTQ community. Among others, you can view videos of the forums and our research finding on our website. I'd like to take this time to introduce our chair of our Commission on the State of Hate, Chair Brian Levin. He will be helping me conduct public comment. And I'd like to also acknowledge our commissioners who are online at this time too. So thank you for being here with us today. There will be opportunities for public comments throughout the meeting today. To keep an orderly meeting, please make sure to comment only on the agenda item under consideration. If you have comments that are not specifically related to an agenda item, please save your comment for the agenda item titled Public Comment on Items Not on the Agenda. As you consider your comments today, we want to encourage you to keep a few things in mind. Everyone is encouraged to participate. The foundation of our work is community input, and we want to encourage you to speak up and have your voice heard. Appreciate the diversity of perspectives. This forum was designed to support learning together and the creation of shared understanding. Everyone brings kernels of wisdom based on their own unique history and experiences. We can't know or understand what someone else thinks unless we listen to them. Therefore, when someone says something that challenges your thinking, we encourage you to listen to them to understand why they think as they do. Maintain a respectful space. Everyone is deserving of respect. That means I encourage everyone to treat each other with kindness and respect today, even if we might disagree. Before we begin the presentations, we want to remind you that if you are a victim or witness to hate, racism, or bullying, you can report and receive free support through the California versus Hate resource line and network. Trained agents on the hotline will help you identify next steps and help connect you to resources including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. Anyone can report anonymously, and your report will not be shared with law enforcement without your consent unless required by law. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visiting californiaversushate.org. We will put the link to California versus Hate in the chat. We also want to remind you about the free services available for communities through the California Civil Rights Department's Community Conflict Resolution Unit. If your community is experiencing heightened fear, conflict, or tensions because of discriminatory practices, hate incidents, or hate crimes, the Community Conflict Resolution Unit may be able to assist. CREW offers a range of conflict resolution services to help communities effectively address hate and discrimination-based community conflict. All CREW services are free, voluntary, and confidential. CREW services can be requested by completing the request for service form online and emailing the form to ccru@calcivilrights.ca.gov. We will put the contact information for CREW in the chat. We are very fortunate to have a fantastic slate of speakers today. However, I want to note that the information presented today does not necessarily reflect the views of the Commission or the California Civil Rights Department. So I'd like to introduce our first presenter. She comes from Shasta Equal Justice Coalition. We have Dr. Sharon Brissolara, is the founder of Inquiry That Matters. Sharon Brissolara is a program evaluator, organizational development consultant, and writer who is committed to working at the intersection of social justice, equity, and community well-being. She and Lori McNeil are co-authors of the Shasta Equal Justice Coalition State of Equity Report. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sharon.
Thank you. So it's wonderful to be with you here today and with my honored panelist. And as we said, the Shasta Equal Justice Coalition, who I'm here to represent today, is a coalition, a network of organizations, many of whom have representatives here in the audience and online. And we work together. The idea, our mission is to work together for fair and equal justice in the criminal legal system in our communities. And we do that through advocacy, education, and strengthening partnerships. One of the things that we realized early on in gathering data is that it was really difficult to get good data on disparities, particularly racial disparities, which was a big concern of ours. And so one of the ideas that came out of our first retreat was to invest time, money, and energy into gathering some of that data to see what was available and to educate people about how to access some of that data. So the idea was for a comprehensive report, which we are presenting to you today in shortened form. And it focused on a 1-year period, the data that was most readily available at the time that we completed the report. And it was the first, as far as we know of, first of its kind report of equity in the criminal legal system. And it also recognizes throughout, and I want to make sure that we ground in this, that the criminal legal system is indeed a system. So it's not just individuals, it's the collaboration between agencies, it's laws, policies, procedures, and they all impact each other. So the original purpose was really to support and encourage the equity and justice work of our local groups that were interested in that, to educate stakeholders about the current state of equity successes and challenges. Disparities as much as we could learn and access to data. So part of that, and we have a member here, Eddie McAllister, who's always talking about trust, the importance of trust. I see you, Eddie. And that having those conversations based on the data that was available was important. And so we hope to inform our work through that. And I didn't have a slide about this, but one of the things in our previous presentations that we've made and we suggest to the media too are some do's and don'ts. And one of our don'ts, we have several don'ts actually, is to not contribute to clickbait or some sensational cherry picking of data, to assume that a specific disparity is evidence of intent, to not forget that the experiences of lived intersectional human beings are reflected in some of this data. And our report, our effort didn't have enough funding to do the kind of qualitative research that Lori and I wanted to do. That's something we hope to do in the future. And to not overstate the findings, to make sure that you keep those limitations, the data limitations in mind. But it is important among the do's to use the information to formulate questions, to become more informed, to understand the context, and to become involved in the creation of solutions. So it's a long report. There are lots of different sections. So your interest, if you were going into it, looking at the executive summary, finding more detail in the sections that are available. And we've also made made available to you an open access to the raw data that we used for people who want to get in there and analyze on their own or to see what we've used. So as is true with any research or evaluation study, there are always limitations to the data. And in the report, we include those in each section because sometimes it differs at the beginning and when we talk about methodology. So for example, very small sample size, you have to use a lot of caution in making conclusions. One of the things that we saw throughout that we'll talk about later is that the actual availability of data. Those of you who might have attended our community meetings that law enforcement had at the Board of Supervisors also heard this. This came after our research, that the systems they were using to collect data, there were several different systems that were very old, in some cases 1989. And it was very difficult for them to extract data. And there was some difficulty in having confidence in the data that was available too. So we talk about that. We also talk about racial data, and I'll get to that in a second. We use several measures for analyzing that disparities, and that's detailed as much as any nerd would want to understand about those measures in the report, but we used multiple to have increased confidence in what we were saying. So I'm going to give you some overall observations. I'm not going to read everything, all the tiny little print on these slides, but if you're interested in a copy of the slides, please give me your contact information and I'll be happy to send those to you by email. Overall, across various indicators, so arrests, police encounters, the RIPA data, Racial Identity Profiling Act data, and some of the hate crimes suggest evidence for disparities, particularly with respect to Black, African American, and Native American, American Indian populations. One of the limitations of the data that we saw, which is that race was determined by the officer on visual inspection. So that I wasn't asking you if I were the arresting officer, your race. I was putting it down. Now, in one respect for African American and Native American, we might see that, that might not, in all cases, it's probably going to lead to an undercount. But with Hispanic Latino folks, it was listed again based on perception as a race and not as an ethnicity, as is the case in the census data. So particularly when it comes to Hispanic Latino folks, it's harder to make those comparisons. For gender, across different measures in the different sections, we saw that there were more field sobriety tests for women. they were more likely to be handcuffed in some of the RUPA data. And again, sex and gender was based on perceived identity. And while perpetrators of crime in the RPD, the Reading Police Department, Anderson, were more likely to be male, nearly half of the victims of crime were identified as women. Age, one of the things that stood out to us again in the police encounters and stops was that individuals perceived as minors were reported to be handcuffed during their proportion of stops at a higher proportion than adults, and even youth from the age of 1 to 9, as we'll see. A very important part of our research in talking our initial discussions when we first formed with law enforcement was people telling us that they didn't have a lot of data about disparities. There wasn't a lot that either was collected or that was available. And we did see that the state of the databases really impacted both their ability to know and the public's ability to know. The databases were updated just prior to this time, but took a long time to get fully on board. And in some cases were not yet completely operational so that they could export that data. The sense was that by 24, 25, it would be, or 25, it would be more functional. Some of the data that was presented to the public that's allowable to be presented to the public was really difficult to find, even for us that had worked with some of those agencies. And clearly, staffing challenges have affected both their ability to look at, to export data. Demographic data is not always available for all. And we found that in the initial probation data that we had. And that's separate from things that are not allowable by law to release. So the police encounters, again, that's that REPA data police stops, particularly in vehicles. These are the types of things that were gathered in that information. It's a lot of information that's gathered by and includes CHP, sheriff, RPD, all of our local law enforcement agencies that are making these stops. So overall, some of those high level data that we saw that individuals perceived as Black had the highest stopped rate when we look at proportion, per 1,000, and the lowest evidence of discovery rate. So that's if you are stopped, and if a further action is taken, so a search, something like that, if there is a discovery, right, it's kind of listed as something was discovered during that search. So although people who are perceived as Black were stopped more often, they were less likely to have something come to light as the result of that action. All right, thank you. And Native Americans were more likely to have reportable actions, like some of the ones that we on the last slide, and the highest rates of searches of their person. So that's one of the possible actions. There were some findings in the RIPA data for individuals perceived as transgender. Not all of our law enforcement agencies gathered that data for some of our other categories during the period in question. So this was the disparities in stops by perceived age, that minors who were more likely to be handcuffed than adults, minors age 1 to 9, about 12% of those who were stopped were handcuffed, and then with the highest for those ages 10 to 14. And that age group had the highest rate of reportable actions taken towards them. So I'm going to pull out a few things from RPD. I will say that Reading Police Department and Anderson Police Department were very forthcoming with data. Took them a while, but it was one of the cases where we made public records requests. We tried to rely on what was available to us. We also learned that state data was not always reliable because not everyone was reporting, especially if it wasn't required and there wasn't the staffing. So we saw that individuals as white, identified as white, were more represented in all arrests, with the highest percent being for parole probation violations. We know that many entities have done a lot of work on helping that those violations, kind of minimize those violations. Individuals identified as Black and Native American were accounted for a higher percentage of arrests than they are in our population. You'll see that example of the ratios being different, 554 for Black individuals, 348 for American Indians, and 140 per thousand for whites. And Anderson had very similar, although their arrest data was lower. And again, all of these PowerPoints are available to you. So nearly half of the victims of crimes documented by both RPD and APD were identified as women. And for women, they were most likely to be, or higher percentages of women among victims of simple assault, destruction, and larceny. So hate crimes, one of the reasons that we're presenting this report now is that both it's important to have that context in order, and the data in order to understand hate crimes. And we also know that real and perceived disparities, the research shows it really impacts reporting that happens, people's willingness or confidence. The prosecution rates, as we saw later in the report, were low for hate crimes once they were reported and documented. Our trends follow the state. We had 28 incidents, which were 20 different cases, because a case can have more than one incident. So the largest proportion were anti-LGBT or anti-African American, followed by anti-LGBTQ and anti-Hispanic. The largest proportion of documented victims were Black, while the majority of offenders, 80%, were white. And there's a lot of data on that kind of the specifics. So our recommended next steps, we have next steps that we recommend for local organizations about education, about interaction with law enforcement, and advocating for future reports. We didn't have a lot about the sheriff or the DA in this report, given time and funding challenges. And really to advocate for, and we think this is a state issue too, increased access to demographic data and approaches to monitor disparities to inform program improvement. For law enforcement agencies, really to clarify what is the situation of the current databases. They've said that there's a need for more investment, and so where would that investment come from? And if there are changes in how demographic data is being collected, how is that happening? And then for government, there's definitely to consider legislation and funding sources to address rural county constraints in collecting, monitoring, analyzing that data. We know that the district attorney has spoken about the restricted capacity, so having more capacities to actually prosecute hate crimes, guidelines for and perhaps requirements for where and how you post publicly accessible data. We have, the SCJC has been interested in the development of robust oversight committees, or maybe even just focused on hate crime issues, and to establish a civil rights advocate. We have someone here who knows a little bit about that, who might speak to that as well, and other outcome data related to in and custody post-custody treatment. So again, thank you so much for your interest in all of this today. And anyone who wants further information, please feel free to send me your information.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sharon Bristolero, for bringing this data, and definitely eye-opening. So thank you so much for that. Next, I'd like to welcome April Carmelo. She is with the Shasta County Indian Education Consortium. April Carmelo is the Indian Education Specialist for the Shasta Union High School District, Title VI, and Johnson O'Malley Indian Education Program. April is a grandmother, mother, wife, and sister of a missing and murdered loved one. She is a descendant of survivors of the California genocide on both her mother's and father's side of the family. She is a citizen of the Greenville Rancheria, Wintu, and the Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. She was raised in the Redding area and attended schools here as well. In 10th grade, she attended the Chemawa Indian High School in Salem, Oregon. And in 11th and 12th grade, she attended Sherman Indian High School in Riverside, California. She is a Haskell Indian Junior College graduate and a Humboldt State University graduate. She has worked in Indian education for the past 29 years in Shasta County. Thank you, April, so much for being here today.
Thank you. I am just blown out of the water by those statistics that Sharon. That's why it's so important for all of us to submit our comments and things that have happened to us. Thank you for everyone that has shown up. I see people from my parent committee. I see students and supporters of Indian education. So thank you. I'm going to start out with this first statement right here. Shasta County and the state of California has a long history of acts of genocide against indigenous people, dating back between 1846 and 1873. California's Indian population plunged from 150,000 to 30,000 with the involvement of California state and federal officials and the taxpayer dollars that supported the violence, and hundreds more funded and sanctioned by the state of California by vigilantes, volunteers, state militiamen, U.S. Army soldiers, U.S. congressmen, California governors, and others spent more than $1 million, close to $2 million on campaigns against California Indians. That's our deep, dark history that we all share. The information gathered here, I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. I highly recommend, and I'll have book recommendations on here as well. These are all documented murders or massacres just here in Shasta County. So you can see, like the very first one, December 4th, 1849, there were 20 people killed at the Upper Sacramento River. That's the Hale Diaries. If you drop down to the very bottom, September 3rd, 1859, there were 62 to 160 killed at Rolf's Ranch, Beaver Creek, Pitt River Valley, Shasta Courier, September 17th, 1859. And so everything in those little parentheses tells you hundreds, if not thousands, of Indian people killed right here in Shasta County. These are some statistics that were gathered from the Sovereign Bodies Institute until they closed down just a couple years ago. In California, these are California statistics. There were 188 missing and murdered Indigenous women. Then you go to Northern California, which is Sacramento North, not San Francisco North, the true North. Northern California, there were 41 women. Their average age was 33 years old. And currently, during that particular year, there were 64 women that were marked as murdered in their database, in the Sovereign Bodies Institute database. And then in Shasta County, there were 10 women who were missing or murdered. The average age was 24 years old. 30% of those missing and murdered in Shasta County are mothers. Currently, there were 4 women that were marked as murdered in the database. There were 6 marked as missing in the database. And 80% of the cases in Shasta County have occurred since 2000. Those are real statistics. And I want to share Greenville Rancheria, in collaboration with Shasta Union High School District, Title VI, and Johnson O'Malley programs, did an MMIP survey. If you're familiar, we host a missing and murdered Indigenous Peoples Walk while they're doing the parade over in the city of Shasta Lake. So these are some statistics, and these are available as well. There were 39% volunteer walkers completed a survey, were elders over the age of 54, followed by 35 to 54-year-olds, making up 19% of the walkers. I will share all these. The majority of those surveyed were females. 25 of those surveyed were attending the MMIP event for the very first time. Hupa and Wintu tribes were the most represented. Pit River, Cherokee, Navajo, Yurok also had more than one member in attendance. Some members of the American Indian Alaska Native community did not complete surveys. 6 counties were represented in these surveys: Humboldt, Klamath, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Shasta, Tehama, and then some people chose to unanswer that. There were a variety of suggestions for future MMIP events. They want more awareness and support and investigations. We applied for a grant through the State of California Board of Corrections, and we got it. We are doing a GIS mapping course with high school students here in the Redding area, actually in 4 counties: Shasta, Tehama, Plumas, and Yuba County, because that's predominantly where Greenville Rancheria members reside. But a majority of them are from here in the Redding area. 3/4 of the participants are high school students. 1/4 of the participants are 8th graders. Grade 12 is the most represented grade in the course. Half of the students participated are from the zip code 96001, and the other 1/4 are from 96002. That just means you're on the other side of the river, on either side of the river. That's what that means to us here in Redding. All but one of the student participants is from Shasta County. It was difficult to get participants from the other counties. Nearly half of the students participated are from the Hupa tribe. Grand Round, Hupa, Shasta, Shoshone, and Tlingit. I'm trying to click the button and it's not working. It's stuck. There it goes. The mapping course participants surveyed this first MMIP event. Nearly all the students had previous MMIP event experience. Half of the student participants had no experience with GIS mapping. 2 students have intermediate experience. Those were the 2 8th graders. Okay, there it goes. Half of the student participants are somewhat familiar with MMIP overall. These are just very simple statistics. What do they hope to gain from this? 3/4 of the students said that the pay influenced their participation. I believe students' time is valuable. So when I wrote the grant, I put in there to pay them for it. And of course, food. All students love food, and that influenced their decision. And I was 42% right. How did they hear about this course? From a family or friend? Because I reached out to the community and people that I knew to ask them, hey, do you have somebody in mind that you think would be interested in doing this? It is a huge commitment. It's a 3-year commitment on a Saturday morning at 8:00. Although more than half of the student participants have not personally experienced having a missing or murdered loved one, a significant 33% of them have. 33% of our kids. 3/4 of the student participants report that they do not know someone affected. This is some patient results that I got from Greenville Rancheria. As you know, human trafficking, domestic violence, sexual assault, those are all part of this survey right here. So the patient age, the majority is 55% are between the ages of 18 and 44 that experienced that. And the patient reported gender, 66% are female. And you ask, how is that related to missing and murdered? These are 2 books that we gathered information from, in particular from An American Genocide by Dr. Benjamin Madley, who I brought here a couple of years ago when, and he presented to Shasta College and at a public forum at the Cascade Theater. Yeah. If you get a chance to read this, it's a very hard read, but it is very informational. These are some also documenting in Shasta County journal articles where he documents the murders and massacres in Shasta County. A majority of these are women and children as well. These are book chapters that he's written other books, or books have them documented as well. So it's clearly documented. Shasta County has a long, deep, dark history. This is a video resource if you'd like to see that. It's 1 hour and 23 minutes. These are some local readings that you should take a look at as well. Gives great history of Shasta County, of the Wintu people. And this is what we're doing to bring about change in our community. We wrote an MMIP grant through the Board of Corrections, a large scope project. We're in cohort 2 for almost $1 million. And we were one of 7 tribes in the state of California that applied and received that. That grant started in 24, will go till 28. The second one, cohort 3, just under $1 million as well. We were one of 12 tribes that applied for that, and that will go till 29. We also have had the city of Shasta Lake do a proclamation recognizing Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Day on May 5th of every year for the last 6 years. What is the state doing to bring about change in our community? In 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom issued an executive order that included a formal apology on behalf of the state for the genocide, acknowledging the violence, discrimination, and exploitation sanctioned by the state government. In 2024, a new law was signed requiring California K-12 students to learn about the mistreatment and perspective of Native Californians during the Spanish colonial and gold rush eras, ensuring the history is taught accurately in schools. And there's the actual press release link for that one. And these are some other bills or legislation that Ramos endorsed and presented. AB 81 reinforces California protections for Native American families and the Indian Child Welfare Act. AB 1284 encourages the Natural Resource Agency and its departments, boards, conservancies, and commissions to enter into co-government and co-management agreements with federally recognized tribes. AB 1863 requires California Highway Patrol, or CHP, to state reasons for denying requests for a feather alert. That's when a Native person goes missing in the state of California. It's a feather alert. A public notification system used when Native Americans are missing or overseen by the CHP. AB 2108 requires county social workers and others to immediately notify parents, guardians, legal counsel, and other pertinent adults when a foster child is missing. AB 2348 revises and strengthens California's feather alert, requiring law enforcement agencies to respond within 24 hours of a request, and also allowing for tribal governments to directly communicate with the state. AB 2695 requires specified entities reporting criminal record data to the Department of Justice to disaggregate the data based on whether incidents took place in Indian country. Very important legislation, and we're grateful for Assembly Member Ramos to advocate on behalf of federally recognized tribes, but also recognizing that in the state of California, because of our unratified treaties, we have over 100,000 indigenous people from California that are not federally recognized. And Shasta County is ranked in the top 10 of the largest K-12 Native student populations. We have close to 1,200 kindergarten through 12th grade students in Shasta County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, April. And I think I just want to thank you for including those, the data about the historical trauma that was inflicted on California Indians at the hands of California. So thank you so much for that. I think it's important. In order to move forward, we need to acknowledge the past and what was done. So thank you so much for acknowledging that and bringing that forward. Again, for moving on to our next presenter, we have Kaylee Brisbane, and she's with the United Way of Northern California's Building Bridges Initiative. Kaylee Kaylee Brisbane is President and CEO of the United Way of Northern California. Kaylee Brisbane is in her first year as CEO of United Way of Northern California. She previously served as COO and began her journey with the organization in January 2019 as a 211 manager. Kaylee brings a strong background in health education and community service. Her experience includes serving as a health educator and medical assistant with Planned Parenthood, camp director for the Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles, and youth activities counselor for Disney Cruise Line. She holds a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership from Simpson University. In her free time, Kaylee enjoys exploring the outdoors and spending time with her 10 nieces and nephews. She is committed to creating and sustaining compassionate, human-centered systems that build a well-resourced, collaborative, and thriving Northern California. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Kaylee.
Thank you so much for having me. It's sobering listening to both of you, but I know those stories because I've lived those stories. I grew up here in this community as a brown child in poverty, struggling, and I left as quickly as I could. I'm actually really glad that I came back 9 years ago. And I know a lot of parents ask, why won't more of our kids come back? And it's because over 20 years, not enough has changed. And thankfully, today I get to talk about what we're doing, in addition to the amazing work that those to my left are doing, to move us forward and to build a community where we all want to be. So as it was said, my name is Kaylee Brisbane, and I am deeply honored to be the president and CEO of Northern California. I'm excited to share with you our Building Bridges initiative. And what I am about to share is not just another program. It's a response to what our community has been telling us loud and clear. We need to find a way back to each other. Quick question. When was the last time you had a meaningful conversation with someone whose political views are completely different from you? If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. And that's exactly why we launched Building Bridges. Like many communities across the country, Northern California is experiencing deep division. But unlike many places, we're determined to do something about it. Building Bridges is our commitment to creating spaces where all voices are heard, where differences are respected, and where we can work together to build a thriving community for everyone. Let me show you what that looks like in practice and why it matters more now than ever. Building Bridges has 3 clear goals, and each one responds to a critical need we've identified in our community. Lower the temperature. In our listening sessions, people told us they're afraid to speak up. Supervisors' meetings have become shouting matches. Social media is hostile. People used to be able to disagree over coffee and still be friends. Now disagreement feels like a personal attack. We are creating spaces where people can have real conversations without fear, where curiosity replaces judgment, and where we focus on understanding rather than winning. We are collecting public knowledge so that we can build future actions together. We must increase diverse engagement. We need more diverse voices in civic decision-making. Right now, too many of us feel locked out of the process. Young people feel disconnected. Communities of color feel invisible. LGBTQ community members are in fear. People struggling with housing, disabilities, or employment don't see themselves reflected in leadership. We are working to change that by actively seeking out underrepresented voices and creating pathways for civic participation that actually work for people's lives. We've held listening sessions with formerly incarcerated individuals at the Shasta Day Reporting Center, with youth where they meet, with immigrant communities, people who are rarely asked, what kind of community do you want to live in? And third, we're investing in grassroots organizations, the groups who have been doing this work every single day, often with very few resources. In response to the murder of George Floyd and the national conversation on racial hate escalating in 2020, we created the North State Equity Fund, a trust-based grant program and network investing in grassroots organizations. These organizations know their communities. They know them intimately. They have trust. They have relationships. What they often don't have is funding and recognition for the work that they do. Building Bridges and the North State Equity Fund amplifies their work and ensures that they have the support that they need. The network of North State Equity Fund grantees share in and celebrate some of the most difficult work. The collaboration is powerful. These 3 goals aren't abstract. They're about transforming how we relate to each other as neighbors, as community members, as people who share this beautiful region. And this movement, because that's what it really is about tackling local challenges, sparking change, and building a community where all can thrive. Not just some, but all. When we began this work, United Way and our funders believed that alongside basic needs, political polarization and a general fear to exist were inhibiting the healthy development of our community and its members. After a year of listening, the community has shared their powerful real-life stories about the impact of hate and fear. This slide represents some of the public knowledge that we have gathered. Power is built through the conversations we have because they focus on our community's aspirations and where we can all go together. You see here that we know what the concerns are. So what can we all do about it? We can continue to hold these conversations that are hope building and level setting. After many of our interactions, we see that these are the moments where transformation happens, not in boardrooms, but in coffee shops, in community centers, and in living rooms. I want you to imagine being someone who's been in fear, who hasn't felt heard in years, maybe decades. And then you're invited into a space where your perspective is considered and you are not attacked, especially and even when you are disagreed with. That's the power of what we're building here. Our society has become resistant from years of disrespect and dehumanization being tolerated. We must relearn how to coexist, collaborate, and communicate. So who are we bridging with? We're operating on 2 levels simultaneously: grassroots community engagement and strategic leadership conversations. First, we meet people where they are. Through those listening sessions and through coffee chats, the beauty of this approach is that it's simple. We talk to anybody ready to talk. We've held sessions in community centers, churches, as I mentioned, the Day Reporting Center. These aren't focus groups or surveys, they're genuine conversations where our staff build trust, they form real relationships, and they hear perspectives from all sides of our community's divisions. What we're hearing is remarkable. People want the same things: safety, opportunity, respect, belonging, but they've lost faith that change is possible. At one session, a particularly passionate and vocal community member realized that their personal methods of communicating might be inhibiting his message from being heard and could even be contributing to the escalation of hate and fear in the meetings that they were against. While we're engaging at the grassroots level, we're also talking to people in positions of power. Our advisory committee includes current and past city council members, retired community leaders, tribal council members and membership, and business and nonprofit leaders. These aren't to check a box, and the conversations we have are not just to make sure we match a demographic. These are in-depth dialogues about building Bridges' values and the responsibility to model them. Because here's the reality: grassroots energy is essential, but if the people with power don't engage differently, nothing changes systemically. These leadership conversations create accountability. We need leaders who will listen to all voices, not just the loudest or most powerful ones in the room. These conversations provide a space for leaders to learn from community voices, and they help us identify which leaders are committed to bridging divides and who might need more time. Needing more time doesn't mean we leave them alone. We re-engage frequently with updates, new material, and encouragement to participate. By working both bottom up and top down, we're creating pressure for change from every direction. Community members feel heard. The leadership knows we will hold them accountable. and we are all working towards the same goal. These conversations haven't happened by accident. We've had to build capacity and knowledge to facilitate them well. We partnered with the Harwood Institute to train staff and volunteers. And part of the Harwood Institute's core principles are to get moving. We've learned to integrate and build with our community as we go. Early on in our efforts to get moving and not overplan, we created a session called Learning Lounges. We treated this like our living room. We realized that if we were going to ask our community to engage differently, we needed to equip them with the tools to do it. So that's where this Learning Lounge series came from. We created the curriculum and interactive virtual gatherings that you can think of like adult education for community building. We designed them to be accessible, engaging, and practical, not lectures, but real dialogue about how you can show up for each other. We started with the why participation matters, the power of civic engagement, because when people check out of civic life, democracy suffers and inequities grow. Next, othering, the dangers of exclusion and divisiveness. This session tackled how we create us versus them dynamics, often unconsciously, and the real harm it causes to individuals and community cohesion. Next, curiosity over judgment. This might be our most powerful tool. When we approach differences with genuine curiosity instead of judgment, entire conversations shift. And this one was my favorite, emotional regulation. Let's be honest, these topics get heated. We taught practical skills for managing our own emotions so we can stay in difficult conversations instead of shutting down or exploding. Next was healthy versus destructive dialogue, because there's a difference between debate and dialogue. We explored how to disagree productively without demeaning people or shutting down conversations. And last, we all belong, tying back to our core belief. Everyone deserves to feel like they belong in this community. Everyone, no exceptions. What's beautiful about these series is how practical it is. People left with actual skills they could use the next day at work, at home, or in community meetings. And we've seen it work. Participants tell us they're having conversations they couldn't have before, staying in conversations that would have fractured. That's the kind of community level capacity building that creates lasting change. The series is available at norcalunitedway.org, and we're hoping to replicate it soon. So where does this all lead? Well, like I said, we're building it while we listen. We're using our public knowledge and we're using the community's voices to build a plan. We're currently in the orange and red sections and in immediate and short-term initiatives. We all have work to do. Our community clearly needs basic supports, and we also want to live in a community of love and belonging. For those of you who are familiar with the hierarchy of needs, yes, we're trying to address the entire foundation at once. This is social determinants of health work. This is democracy sustaining. This is life affirming. So that is where we are headed, to a Northern California where everyone truly belongs, where civic participation is diverse and robust, where disagreement doesn't mean division. We've watched people from opposite political sides understand they are not contributing to the solutions with their dehumanizing behaviors. We've seen community voices, particularly from marginalized groups, find strength and personal power through learning from and participating in our efforts. What really matters is we're changing culture of how we relate to each other. It's harder to measure than attendance numbers, but it's the real work. We will continue to show that it is possible to disagree without demonizing, to engage without attacking, to work together honoring and embracing differences. Is it easy? No. Are we solving everything? Absolutely not. But we're creating the infrastructure for long-term change. We're building the muscles our community needs to handle conflict constructively, and that's worth every effort. Building bridges is about transforming how we show up for each other, for our neighbors and our community members. It's about ensuring everyone, and I mean everyone, feels like they belong. As you walk down the hallway, you might have seen a piece of art from a student. It said, "Love is not what you say, love is what you do." And I have frequently referred to this effort as a movement of love in action. The divisions we're facing aren't going away on their own. In fact, without intentional bridge building, they will only deepen. But here's the good news. We've proven change is possible. People are ready to connect and they're hungry for authentic conversation and real community. Elected officials, this is what your constituents are asking for. This reduces conflict, increases productive collaboration, and brings important voices into decision making. So we invite everyone, absolutely everyone, to attend a coffee conversation, join a listening session, watch the learning lounges online, start conversations in your own neighborhood. If you're doing work that aligns with us, reach out. We're stronger together and we want to support and amplify building bridges that amplify the bridges you're already building. So to end, I have a challenge for each of you. Choose curiosity over judgment. Pick one thing, one conversation you'll have differently, one person you'll reach out to, one meeting you'll attend, just one thing, because that's how movements start. One person, one action at a time. Together, we can build a Northern California where everyone thrives. My contact information is on the screen. I welcome your questions, ideas, and partnership, and thank you for tonight.
Thank you so much, Callie, for your presentation. And next, we have Ali Gonzalez. She is with the California Civil Rights Department. Ali Gonzalez is the lead outreach specialist at the California Civil Rights Department, an analytical and results-driven public sector professional. Ali Gonzalez specializes in community engagement, program evaluation, and data-informed decision-making. With experience at the California Civil Rights Department and in behavioral health and violence prevention settings, she excels in translating complex information into accessible insights, building stakeholder partnerships, and improving organizational processes. She holds a Master's of Public Administration, MPA, and brings strong communication and research skills to advancing equity and strengthening community-focused programs. Thank you so much, Ali, for being here today.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Apologies. I'm honored to be here amongst the panelists, and it's just great to be here this evening. Before we get started, just as a quick disclaimer, the guidance in this presentation is for informational purposes only. It does not establish substantive policy or rights, and it does not constitute legal advice. This information is based on the most recent guidance as of today's date, so it is everyone's responsibility to be aware of changing guidance and laws. So I have a very quick presentation. So I will just lightly be touching on the work that CRD is doing, including one of the laws that it enforces, the Ralph Civil Rights Act, which offers protections against hate in California. And then we will dive into an overview of two programs within CRD that aim to prevent hate and mitigate harm for those who experience it. So CRD's mission is to protect the people of California from unlawful discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations, and from hate violence and human trafficking. And I will break down some of the work that CRD does to enforce its civil rights laws. Beginning with the first bullet point, a large part of the work that CRD does is investigating complaints of discrimination and other civil rights violations. What this means is that anyone who feels they have been discriminated against for a protected characteristic can file an intake form with CRD to meet with an investigator. As long as the claim falls under CRD's jurisdiction and there is enough evidence to move forward, CRD will investigate the claims and try to find a solution between the two parties. Which brings us to our next bullet point, which is facilitating dispute resolution. What this means is that CRD has neutral third-party mediators who help everyone involved in the claim reach a voluntary agreement. Some examples of agreements include settlements, policy changes, employment reinstatement, etc. There are also times when appropriate where CRD will prosecute violations in civil court. CRD also has a legislative and regulatory unit who work to clarify the laws that CRD enforces. CRD is responsible for collecting data on the pay and demographics of large employers' workforces. We also work with communities to help resolve conflict, and we conduct outreach and trainings to inform Californians about their rights and obligations under civil rights laws. CRD enforces the Ralph Civil Rights Act, which protects individuals from hate violence, including threats based on protected characteristics. This is not a complete list, but protected characteristics under the Ralph Act include sex, gender, including pregnancy, childbirth, and related health conditions, gender identity and gender expression, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, disability, medical condition, genetic information, marital status, sexual orientation, citizenship, primary language, immigration status, political affiliation, and position in a labor dispute. And it's important to remember that the Ralph Act protects actual protected characteristics, but it also protects perceived characteristics or association with someone who has those protected characteristics. Some examples of hate incidents based on protected characteristics that are covered under the Ralph Act include stopping or attempting to stop religious activities by threats of violence, damaging a person's property because of their actual or perceived race, placing a flyer with anti-immigrant messaging. This is also known as hate littering on the doorstep of the home of immigrants in order to make them feel fear for their safety. Vandalizing a building with slurs because the owners provide services to people who are LGBTQ+. Threatening to make a false police report against someone because of their political affiliation, or assaulting or trying to assault someone because of their actual or perceived disability. So we touched on this earlier, but one of the programs within CRD to address hate is our California versus Hate program. This is a statewide non-emergency resource for individuals and communities who witness or are targeted for hate. So as we've mentioned, individuals can file reports online or call 833-8-NO-HATE. If an individual chooses to make a report online, they can do so in 15 different languages. And if they call the number, they will be met with trauma-informed civil rights agents who can provide resources, referrals, and support in over 200 languages. California versus Hate is not affiliated with law enforcement. However, if someone wants to file a police report, that is something that California versus Hate can help folks do. Reports can be anonymous with some exceptions, such as if there's child abuse or elder abuse occurring. And I wanted to share just some stats from the California versus Hate 2024 report data. So incidents of hate were reported in 49 out of 58 counties. We know that it's not likely that there's no hate happening in the other counties, but there's definitely underreporting happening. The most common incidents were for verbal harassment and slurs. That made up 67% of the reporting, followed by 57% for discriminatory treatment, followed by 46% of intimidation or threats of violence, followed by assault, that made up 20%, and then 19% was for worse service at businesses. Now, the protected characteristics that folks were most targeted for hate for hate were race or ethnicity, gender identity, sex or sexual orientation, religion, and disability. And there was a total of 1,180 reports of hate. Another program that I'd like to give a brief overview on is our Welcome In program. So Welcome In is a partnership opportunity between CRD and small businesses. And it basically aims to protect people against hate and highlight safe and inclusive spaces throughout California. So one of the things that CRD can do with participating businesses is help support them by equipping staff with training. We have an awesome bystander intervention training that we've published and tools on how to proactively handle incidents of hate or harassment that may occur between patrons while on the business establishment's premises. So if there are two customers who are in a disagreement with one another, this training helps the staff members address it. Welcome In also encourages public reporting and showcases best practices to prevent and report acts of hate. And then participating businesses receive a certificate of recognition and get spotlighted on CRD's website and social media pages. And that really concludes my presentation. Thank you so much. Please stop by our table. We've got a ton of awesome resources and more information, and we can answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ali, for your presentation. And again, anybody would like any of this information, we have our resource table, so please feel free to pick up anything that you need. Okay, so we are done now with our presenters, and before we go on to public comment, I do have a couple questions that I'd like to ask each of the presenters. So I'm going to go one by one, and I'd like to start with Sharon. So what key programs and efforts are effective at reducing and preventing hate in your community, Sharon?
So when we say effective, this is an occupational hazard. I know I feel like I don't have a lot of the data, but there's certainly promising practices here that I can speak to. And I think about them in three categories. So one is connection within and across groups, and bias awareness. So I do think about building bridges, and SEJC, and I am a member of that movement. Stand Against Stigma is a group within HHSA, our Health and Human Service Agency, that does a lot of work to educate people about bias, stigma, and the impact of it. And NorCal Outreach does a lot of work as well to educate people to reach out to others. We also have a Shasta Resilience Project that does some of that emotional regulation work. There are many that do education and advocacy. Many of the groups that partner with are members of the Shasta Equal Justice Coalition, and certainly April and Kaylee's organizations and work are included in that too. But the Beloved Community, Reciproca, Cultural Center, Anti-Racism Task Force, many of these folks are here today. Shasta Citizens, Shasta County Citizens Advocating Respect, among others. I also say, with all of these, we all have a role to play, and local media definitely has an important role to play. And I saw before Nevin Kalapali, who works for Shasta Scout, who's done a lot of investigative reporting on criminal legal system issues. And then in terms of services and support, which is really important to both the training that goes into doing services and support for Hill Country's mobile crisis outreach team and the crisis intervention response team by RPD, as it was originally envisioned and designed to connect people to the resources they need: physical, mental health, experience of poverty, and educating people about responses that may be exhibited from different cultural perspectives, from different mental health and physical perspectives too.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you for those. April, same question.
Same question. Ditto. No, I'm just kidding.
That was quick.
No, what key programs and efforts are effective at reducing and preventing hate in your community? I think addressing any issue or incident head on, and also reaching out to organizations that already exist, but also preventing hate in your community, to go to events that you normally wouldn't go to, be involved in multicultural events in your community, but also go outside of your community as well. There's a bigger world than Redding, California, and we should experience that so that we can bring those ideas and things back here to help prevent or reduce hate in our community. So I think, and I think the biggest thing for me, preventing hate in your community, is knowing your community's history, knowing that deep, dark history, and understanding the plight of Indigenous people wherever you go, because everywhere you go in the United States, you're in Indian country. And to always learn about the first people first, and then expand from there.
Ditto.
A big ho to that.
But I'll add a little if you'd like.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Please do so.
And so important what both of them said. I know that from my experience growing up here that the youth oriented programs are where it needs to start. So Local Indians for Education has been doing great work through our community for a very long time. NorCal Outreach, Siskiyou Outreach, Tehama Outreach, all of our queer groups that are fighting and speaking loudly and proudly that we do exist here and that we are welcome. Our pride events in this region are phenomenal. And I'm glad they don't happen all on the same weekend most of the time so that we can all go to them. It is a wonderful growing movement here. And I would shout out, because I'm seeing them, Art Hunger, places where we can all gather together despite our differences and learn about each other as humans. That's what's working here.
Thank you so much for answering that question. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the second question, and I'll start with April for this one. If you had the power to create one new statewide policy or program to better protect your community from hate, what would it be?
Gee, I wish I would have had more time to think about that. Create a new statewide policy or program. Well, I would think that the engagement with the indigenous people or the native people of our community is crucial, because the way that we think and the way that we interact with our families and the traditions that we have, everywhere from traditional burning to taking care of the land, to taking care of the water and protecting the salmon, all those things create a connection to who you are and where you are and the place that we call home. So when you feel it, the reason I think people lash out from hate is because they don't understand or they're afraid. And so when you're connected to something, we don't walk around in fear of what we don't know, because we just need to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, thank you so much, April. Kaylee?
Yeah, it's real. Shameless plug, I would say building bridges. We absolutely have a desire to spread the message and grow an effort that is organic and dynamic for each community. But I do want to refer to what the work April has already done in our community of laying a foundation of K through 12 education based on true history. Because when I was in fourth grade here, we were definitely learning a lie. And we need to understand our history. We need to understand the diversity that is truly here in the North State. There's a lie of a story that is told that this is, very not diverse community. And it is diverse. So we need that education to reflect that. I think about the California Healthy Youth Act and how at the core, the California Healthy Youth Act teaches about diversity in people and gender and their sexuality, and it teaches about consent. And then it teaches about sex ed. We need education that is robust and inclusive of all identities. And you've laid an amazing groundwork for us. So I hope we'll continue to build that with all of the work that we're doing. Building Bridges has a place in education. Building Bridges has a place in anywhere where community meets.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Kaylee. Sharon?
More Aprils.
More April.
No, one important one for us is investing in prevention strategies beyond policing that really look at those prevention activities as public health movements and community-owned problems. And part of that would also be the support of diversion and deflection programs and restorative justice programs, which have that education component in it, reducing bias and also keeping people out of the criminal legal system. And I'll just go back to one of the things that we talked about earlier is a citizens oversight commission, and those can mean lots of different things, but having that more teeth behind that, there's a lot of recommendations out there about that, and perhaps a civil rights advocate position within police departments, and I'm hoping Tom O'Mara will speak to that a little bit as well later in public comment.
Thank you so much for your answers. And again, I just like to reiterate again, thank you so much for being part of our forum tonight and just really opening our eyes to the struggles that you guys are facing in this region, and but also the great grassroots organizations that you guys have here. So continue to keep doing the good work, and we're going to go ahead and open it up to public comment, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer it on over to my chair, Brian Levin, for public comment.
Hi, I'm Brian Levin. I go by the pronouns he, him. I would be remiss coming to this part of the state without just prefacing your much more important public comment than mine as observer, but it deserves to be said, particularly when there is across so many groups in this state contemporary pain and suffering and grief, along with a vibrant yet for many unknown history of genocide and discrimination. So if I may exert a little bit of legerdemain yet again to my phenomenal colleague, Commissioner Cuellar, who I just want to note, from the beginning of when I started in civil rights decades ago, I'm not going to tell you what year, Native American people have been so special in their allyship of the work for our whole community. And that's both nationally and here in this state. And I want to acknowledge that. I will not have the time to list everyone personally. I also want to thank the community members for showing up. This was a key part of what we wanted to have in the legislation for those of us who were pushing it through. Because one of the things that we found was the best answers don't come from light years away or from Washington, D.C. They come from right here in the local communities, which are doing the heavy lifting. So if I may, if you would just allow me, especially during this Native American Heritage Month, I want to reiterate our governor's apology to the Native American population of this state for the centuries of genocide, degradation, abuse, and ethnic cleansing that have taken place here. And that does not diminish other suffering, but this special time in this special place with the phenomenal people that we have here tonight, I think it is so important that I humbly do that. When I went to Europe, there was a picture of Willy Brandt, and he visited Poland, and he bowed before the Polish officials and apologized for the genocide that took place in Europe. I want to bow my head today and apologize and thank everyone here for being part of an America and a state that recognizes, sometimes way too late, the dignity of all our residents. So thank you for letting me do that, and I apologize for that legerdemain. If we may, let's go to our public comment on these just phenomenal informational presentations. And by the way, it's not just local. Have you noticed that the key sources for solutions in this community are all women at our table today? Just want to acknowledge that. Anyway, I would like to review let's do it, please. My mom would be so proud of me. She always loved it when glass ceilings were broken. So thank you. I would like to review this process for public comment. First, the commission is a public body, and an important part of being this public body is hearing from you, the public. There will be opportunities for public comment throughout the meeting here. To keep an orderly meeting, please make sure to comment only on the agenda item under consideration. However, if you have comments that are not specifically related to an agenda item, please save your comment for the agenda time, which is entitled Public Comment on Items Not on the Agenda. And by the way, we get a lot of good ideas from that as well. To submit a written public comment, I would like you to email the commission for those of you who are in the online virtual universe. And that email is, all caps on this, csh@calcivilrights.ca.gov. And again, all caps on the CSH at calcivilrights.ca.gov. And we'll put that email address in the chat. So thank you very much, Dr. Thomas, for doing that. For everyone in the room today, you may submit a written comment by emailing us or by writing your comment on a piece of paper and handing it to one of the California Civil Rights Department staff members, who, by the way, we are so on this commission, who we are so indebted to. So thank you, Fernando or Lupe. If you submit a written comment that pertains to an agenda item, we'll read it aloud or summarize it when the public comment portion of that agenda item is open. If the comment is not about a specific agenda item, we'll read it aloud or summarize at the end of the meeting during the agenda item, public comment on items not on the agenda, which I used to just call miscellaneous, but that's okay. If you'd like to speak at the meeting or deliver your public comment, you will have the opportunity to do so during the public comment portions of the meeting. As we are at the end of our presentations, we will ask if there is any public comment. We will begin with people in the room with us today, all of you, and then move on to public comment on Zoom. If you're joining us on Zoom, you may request to speak on an agenda item by raising your hand virtually on Zoom. To do so on a computer, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9, or if you're an older folk like me, *9. In the interest of time, we'll limit verbal public comment to 2 minutes per person. If you require translation or an accommodation, we will gladly grant additional time. As you consider your comments today, though, we'd like to encourage you to keep a few things in mind. Everyone is encouraged to participate, he tried to say. The foundation of our work is community input. And it was so important that we made sure to put that in the statute. And we want you to speak up and have your voice heard. We appreciate the diversity of perspectives. This fora was designed to support learning together and the creation of shared understanding. Everyone brings kernel of wisdom based on their own unique history and experiences, which is key to why we do this. We can't know or understand what someone else thinks unless we listen to them. Therefore, when someone says something that challenges your thinking, we encourage you to listen to understand why they think as they do. Maintain a respectful space. Everyone is deserving of respect. That means I encourage everyone to treat each other with kindness and respect today, even if we might disagree. And if I may just add to that, I think one of the things when people talk about polarization and governance, again, I think that civility, I think that community input starts here at the local and ground level. So I thank you. As a reminder, public comments must pertain to this agenda item on the presentation. So we will start the public comment from members of the public and then move to comments from the commissioners. Kevin, or shall I say Dr. Thomas, Do we have any public comment on Zoom or emailed public comments?
Yes, we have one emailed comment, and I believe it's going to be for Ali. The question is, when an individual or individuals describe other faiths that are not Christian as witchcraft, does this qualify as hate speech? Can you make a statement to address this?
Thank you for your question. Please email the commission and we will respond to you.
No other comment on email, no other comment on Zoom.
All right. Fernando or Lupe, do we have any public comment in the room?
My comment is actually a question as to why Lynn's question can't be answered in this room at this time. About witchcraft, why it had to be only done by email. It's a valid point. It's an interesting topic and it's very timely, and it just got deferred and we're not going to hear the answer.
Excuse me. I hear your concerns and I appreciate you bringing that. I am not allowed to speak on that. But we have our commission email where they can more appropriately direct the question to the best person to answer it. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comments or questions? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Tom O'Mara. And all of your comments, all of your presentations today have been very profound and very lofty. In contrast, mine is fairly pedestrian, but sometimes things like that are building blocks to future things and improvements. I have served for 7 years as a volunteer civil rights advocate with the Reading Police Department. I'm bringing this up in response to really the second question for all of the panel, which was what's something that might be able to be implemented on a statewide basis. This is a volunteer position where I served under a captain in the department, and we attempted to reach out to victims of hate crimes. We investigated sometimes and developed leads that resulted in prosecution. Several of the victims that we spoke to said the fact that you guys are here talking this way means you're actually serious about this. So that was a nice outcome. There were corollary things where we trained over 300 community members in the force options training through the department, which I think was a valuable thing. I also served on interview panels for new and lateral officers, and there's one other thing, but anyway, I think it's something, and it shouldn't be just one person. I think it should be reflective of the diversity in the community. It'd be good if there were maybe 2 or 3 people. It doesn't cost a lot. One last thing is, just as an advocate, one of the barriers that you often run into is, oh, well, we can't show you the police report. Well, in this system, I was cleared to not only see the police report, but to see it as it was being developed and drafted and have input on that. And all of that, I think, is a good possibility. We're trying to increase reporting of hate crimes by victims to law enforcement. And I think this is an affirmative step that could help with that. Thank you. I'll write up something for you also.
Let's do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just respond to that, your efforts have shown some effect. If you look at the prosecution levels for this county as opposed to an adjoining county, much more relative to the number of hate crime incidents that are reported. Additionally, and we see this a bit in other places too. The more densely populated parts of a county tend to have more reporting. So if I may, and it's not a plug for my 30-year-old article, but I did a best practices study that was published in Stanford Law and Policy. And one of the things that we found was, when we looked at this stuff, police departments having an actual policy, which Reading does. But what I would suggest, and we've had speakers, experts come, Janine Bell for one, who wrote a book called Policing Hate. And the FBI recommends that, well, the FBI traditionally has recommended this. And that is having a bias liaison officer, and particularly in smaller departments, that can review certain crimes that might be a bias incident that might go past, for instance, a responding officer. Some places have been as robust as to take any interracial crime and do that. I'm not saying do that, but having another level of supervisory input has been recommended by both scholars and the Bureau when the reporting system came up. Just interestingly enough, unfortunately here in Reading, anti-Black hate crimes are greater, at least according to the latest FBI data, which is updated, than all the other reported hate crimes combined. So we have a lot of work to do. And the most common place in Reading for hate crimes are residences. So just wanted to throw that in. So, and any way that I can be helpful, or any of our commissions or the Civil Rights Department, please don't hesitate to contact us. And thank you for that observation.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I had an opportunity to meet Regina Cuellar and some of the staff as we set up this forum. And thanks to the speakers who were just outstanding and really got to what we wanted to do. So my name, for those of you who don't know me, is Susan Morris Wilson. I am the chair of SCAR, Shasta County Citizens Advocating Respect. Now, we used to be called Shasta County Citizens Against Racism, but we decided to take a little more positive role on this because being against something has a certain feel to it. So with SCAR, I have Penny here with me, many SCAR members here. Tom was one of our major people over time, many people. So I wanted to say that, SCAR was mentioned, but I wanted to read our mission. Our mission is to promote civil rights and social justice through education, cultural interactions, and public and private advocacy. And really our role has done a lot of work, just like the work that Tom does with the police department, only we do ours without the police department. We do a lot of work individually with people who are having trouble.
1 minute left. Sorry.
Thank you. So SCAR has done many things in the past. We do forums. We did a great recent forum on anti-Semitism. We did a great forum on homelessness where we put the public officials with the homeless people for dinner and we all ate together. It was just a grand event. And I want you to know that we have been around now almost 50 years. Almost 50 years. We started in 1988. So that's quite a long story and we have many things to report.
30 seconds.
I just want to tell you that we support all like-minded organizations. We've been involved with SEJC. April is on our board at SCAR, and I've known Kaylee. I've worked with her forever. We did bring our signs, and we give these away to people. We stand for respect and diversity is on one side, and on the other side, I have to read it. Shasta County stands united against hate. So these things are really important to us.
Thank you so much. And can we hold that sign up again? Can we?
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah,
Thank you.
let's do so.
Thank you.
Hi, my thanks to the commission and to the panelists, but Ms. Brissola, I just have a clarifier about some of the data you presented. In the statistics that you shared, does that take into account like repeat individuals, or like you showed a disproportion of minors being arrested? I'm curious, were some of those the same minor, or would that be reflected in your data or not?
Yeah, not necessarily. For the REPA data, it's unclear because we don't have those, or it came from the RIPA analysis, some of their analysis, then we did additional analysis on it, so we don't have particular identifying factors. So there could be some unduplicated counts. You're welcome.
Thank you. It's a little hard having an audience on all sides. My name's Nate Fairchild. I sit on the board for NorCal Outreach. Heard some wonderful things said about NorCal Outreach. Wanted to clarify a couple of things, make a few statements that might help people understand who we are and what we do. We've been around for quite some time now. We are your LGBTQIA center and nonprofit organization. We offer direct services to people. We have meetings almost every night of the week. We offer meetings for allies. We offer meetings for youth. Youth is very popular and is so important. We offer veterans meetings in the LGBTQ plus area. We have gender quests for people who are questioning their gender or know that they're trans or anything along those lines. They can come to a meeting and have a conversation about it. We even have Dungeons and Dragons. We do everything, right? So we're happy to do those things for the community. And one of the primary sources of that support for this community. We offer safe zone trainings where we can go to organizations, have conversations with them, do a 2-hour training, and people come away with a better understanding of some of the things that can be divisive, such as certain words that are used that people don't understand that could be hateful. Letting people understand what it's like to be in the LGBTQ plus community. Of course,
1 minute.
Thank you for the time. We are known for pride, and we're proud of our pride. So please come out when we do that in June again this year. We connect with other groups in the area because we are unique, or almost unique, in that we have a center, we have a physical space to go. And I also want to point out that our group is rather hidden, especially in schools. In schools, we don't identify, we don't count, we don't know the data on LGBTQ plus students, especially those trans people who are younger, and we have a lot of them. We're all volunteer. We have this center, and we're supposed to be supported with grants, but grants support projects. They don't often support operations. We try to keep the lights on. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is not easy. Thank you for the support from some of the folks here, but $3,000 a month is not coming from nowhere to offer the most basic services we do.
Thank you so much. And if I could just comment on what you just said. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work that you're doing. My first thing as a lawyer that I did was represent a variety of LGBTQIA plus groups across this state. And I want you to know that our mission is fundamentally anchored to the protection of all Californians. And that includes the LGBTQIA plus. And I want to just say at this particular time, because we have very special commissioners who did not get up here, but have been so involved in this. It is a priority for us. We are doing significant research as well to reach people through various types of surveys, including the CHIS survey. And we will not be bowed by however political wind's role from protecting the dignity, health, and welfare of all the beautiful citizens and residents of our state. And that includes, and I apologize, but I think this is so important at a time when the transgender community is under attack. We just had a transgender woman shot multiple times in Florida just within the last 24 hours. This is happening routinely, and it must stop, and we will exert, and I know this from the top of the Civil Rights Department to all our commissioners, we will not stop our mission to protect all Californians, and that includes our transgender brothers and sisters. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I have a rainbow family as well, for the work that you're doing here. Because as in where our university is, the Family Assistance Group does wonderful work, and you really are unsung heroes of our community. I wanted to recognize that now. Thank you.
Find a way to help us help us. That's what we need.
Hello, excuse my seat. My name is Eddie McAllister. For those who don't know me, but I look around, I see so many members of what I consider the choir and the rest of you. I wanted to say thank the commission for coming here to Shasta County. We appreciate that. You know, in Shasta and maybe one in Tehama, but several in Butte County, there has been racially motivated hate crimes. And I certainly want to thank you for coming. But if you consider coming back, consider going to Butte County. This is 5 of the hate crimes that have been documented are from Butte County. 3 are from Shasta County. So we appreciate that, but go to Butte County, please. I invited some folks from Butte County to come up. I don't know if there's anybody here from Butte County. So anyway, you know, we're dealing with, you know, I'm going with the subject of approaches to prevention of hate crimes. You know, we do have several things, approaches, but I was thinking about education. And, you know, I represent the Shasta Bluffy community, and one thing that we promote is the principles of nonviolence. And as an approach,
1 minute,
as approach to prevention, I would say trying to find a way to get those principles of nonviolence into our schools. This is a prevention issue. I'm looking at my notes. Hold this, would you please? As we are moving into this year, we're dealing with maybe what we call a hand slap. Just recently, in last week, a young man, where he pled guilty for a hate crime, but they let him out, and he's supposed to come back in January for sentencing. So what does that say? You know, but education, you know, the principles of nonviolence. One of the principles of nonviolence is love and not hate. So teaching that in our schools is one thing. You know, we do have a Will You Be Loved campaign here in Reading. We have a pledge with the Shasta Bluffy community. Once again, approaches to prevention. These are the things, you know, talking and thinking about Dr. King. You know, he's given us so much in the 60s. But one thing that we can all probably really relate to right now is the book that he wrote is Where Do We Go From Here? Community Chaos. Where are we? What'd you say? Chaos. Here we are, 50 years later, we're here in chaos. So that's all I got to say.
thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Ezra Haller. I'm doing the MMIP thing with April Carmelo. I just wanted to come here today and show how missing and murdered Indigenous people are treated differently. I'm here to speak on behalf of my cousin Heather. She's been missing since 2012, August 18th. She called 911 3 times on that day. That she had been drugged and that she needed help. A man's voice could be heard in the background. Those calls were a lifeline. They were a direct plea to law enforcement, yet the response she needed never came. Her disappearance was not treated as an emergency. It was not treated like a crime. It was not treated like a young woman fighting for her life. Her family has carried this weight of that day for 13 years. Her name may fade from public attention, but their pain does not. Every day comes with the same questions. Where is Heather? Why did this happen? Why is no one being held accountable? Why has her case been allowed to sit with so few answers? Her family has had to push their own just to keep her story alive. We're asking you to see Heather as she is, not a case file, but a Native woman whose life mattered. We're asking for a full and honest review of her case, including how her 911 calls were handled. What was done for those first few hours, the search efforts, and the people connected to her disappearances. We need transparency. We need accountability. These gaps need to be acknowledged and corrected. Native women go
1 minute.
missing and are murdered at rates for higher than national average. Our cases are often ignored and pushed aside. Heather's family has lived that reality for years. It's time to change that. It's time to show our communities that our women matter. We cannot talk about safety with these families and are still waiting for answers more than a decade later.
Thank you so much. I'm going to exercise my role as chair to make sure that this statement relating to Heather is distributed to every commissioner and to the Civil Rights Department. So we're going to do that. So I want to thank you for bringing voice to the voiceless.
Hello, my name's Tammy Carpenter. I'm from Hoopa. I got invited by April Carmela, my good friend. She helps us do the March over in Shasta Lake. My daughter, Angelina McConnell, was murdered in Shasta County in Shasta Lake. The law enforcement never notified me properly. They never helped me. They haven't helped me from the beginning. And this is my sister Sherry, came with it. We came from Hoopa. And we just want to let you know that we're part of the MMIP movement also. And we've been doing the march here since 2019. My sister has been, we're trying to seek justice for my daughter. She's a Hoopa tribal member. We're from Hoopa, California, from Humboldt County. And we're here to voice our concerns about the hate and the crimes that are on the indigenous. I like to be called American Indian. My roll number is 200. That's what the federal government gave me as the tribal member from the California tribe. That's who I am. And I just want to let everybody know that, that my daughter was murdered. And we come, tonight to see if anybody would wear her shirts. We made sure my friend from Montana made us a shirt for her so we can bring awareness for the MMIP. I didn't want to be in this club. Who is my only daughter? I have 2 children. And my daughter was taken from somebody in this community. And I don't know who did it, and I don't, I'm very a strong person though, because it's hard to get up and talk because it takes you back to the time when you were found out about your daughter being murdered, being killed by somebody, and she was taken, and she didn't have cancer. She didn't die in a car accident. Somebody killed her, and I'm just here just to let people know that I'm behind April and on this with you guys, what you guys are doing, a very good cause here in the Shasta County and Humboldt County. We need some of this stuff going on in Humboldt County also. You want to say something, sis? No justice, no peace. Yes, that's what she's saying. No justice, no peace. That's for all the missing and murdered indigenous peoples in Shasta County and from Butte and Tehama counties, all the way down in North Cal. That's what I want to say tonight.
Thank you. And again, by virtue of my role as chair, I'm going to make sure that your statements, which I have a printed copy here, are going to be distributed to every commissioner and all the relevant civil rights department people that we have here this evening. And I want to thank you for your courage. You are not alone. Thank you.
My name is Frances Cole Boyd, and I wasn't going to speak, but I keep hearing of all the other groups. And then I look around the room, and so I'm the president of the local American Association of University Women. And I just want to say we are allies. A lot of us are then in some other groups, including SCAR, which I've learned about in one of our speakers, AAUW, but I could tear up too. This is really heavy, but we are allies and we are here to support also.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lynn Fritz. I chair the Shasta Interfaith, which is an association of 20 or more faith traditions in Shasta County, and we extend into Trinity County as well as Siskiyou County, and have in our group about a half dozen associates that are from different organizations or individuals that want to volunteer and support diversity of faith. So our purpose in the association, we've been meeting since 1993. We have an annual event. It's coming up the Sunday just before Thanksgiving. So it's being held this year at the LDS Church on Churn Creek, just across the street. And it's different faith traditions giving thanks and expressing gratitude so that the community can learn about the different ways different faith traditions express gratitude. And so throughout the year, we hold community education forums. We support a lot of things and have partnerships with all the equity groups in the community. And our purpose is not only to come together with the diversity of faith that we have that assemble together, learn from each other, grow our relationships, but also to help support diversity, networking in the community, advocating, building understanding, because we think it's very important. So some of our group includes the Islamic Center, Baha'i, the Sikh Center, Native American traditions, of course, Christian traditions that are Protestant and Catholic. And we just come together and we have representatives come in from different groups every month and talk to us about what they're doing, and we build relationship. And so we also support things like World AIDS Day that's coming up on December 1, working with NorCal Outreach. We've done that since many, many years. I think it was 1995 that we host that event at one of our community centers. And so I think it's important that we also uphold and have respect for diversity of faith traditions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Freeman, and I'm Shasta County Superintendent of Schools, and my heart's touched. I believe change happens when I hear something or see something that makes me feel something, that makes me do something. I can honestly tell you I've had conversations with people in this room that have changed me. The march in the parade in Shasta Lake, when you get to the corner and they're reading the names and you hear people that you're marching with say, "That's my daughter." Right? Like you can't not feel that. And so April, thank you so much for the work that you're doing and that project. United Way, thank you. Sharon, thank you. Everybody, I wish sitting back here, I heard more coming from our schools. And so I'm going to vow, Shasta County Office of Education is about 37,000 kids. That's 0 to 18, right? I don't have 37,000 kids in my student programs, right? We run Tri-Mountain Academy, formerly known as Juvenile Hall. We've changed the name. We run an independent study and we run an Excel. Me in 2 minutes do not get along. Okay. But flourishing is mutual. And we have people that are hurting. We have parents that are hurting that lead to kids that are hurting. We have a county that is, the rhetoric is reading, writing, arithmetic, and so much of the outcomes that we want are going to be on the other end of healing. The 50-50 that we have in Shasta County reading on grade level, I truly believe that if we work on healing, if we work on being peacemakers, if we work on having constructive conversations, those things are going to get better. And until we do, they're not. We're working hard. Educators are working hard. I think it comes down to family dinner tables. I think it comes down to coffee lounges and chairs. And I I am on record. I've met with NorCal Outreach. I've worked with Eddie in the beloved community. I will go anywhere and I will have a conversation with anyone if it helps all of our kids in Shasta County flourish.
Thank you so much. If I could just put in a possible suggestion, Dr. Howard Ehrlich, who founded the Prejudice Institute, found that doing climate surveys of students and faculty at schools were a rich set of information that might not have otherwise come to the surface. Interestingly enough, over 30 years ago, LA County Schools did a survey throughout the whole LA Unified, and 48%, I believe, responded. And just from those, they found, this was administrators, just from those, they found more hate crimes in the schools in LA than the total that was reported for the whole county. So it was kind of the invisible number, if you will. The other thing that I was told by people who were smarter than me is that another way that schools can be helpful, and there might be issues relating to privacy and things like that, but demographic data from the schools is updated every year, whereas the census does every 10 years. So as changes take place in a community, often schools have access to data that can benefit policymakers throughout a whole city or county. So just a few ideas, take them as you will, but thank you so much for your participation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Michael Escamilla or Michelle Escamilla. I'm originally from Santana. Some of you guys know it as Santa Ana. Appreciate everyone in the panel. I hear a lot of things. You have a big unrepresentation of a Hispanic community like a Musgos, Yaquis. Would you be willing to work with that when you do your date of events? Because I know there's a big one. I'm a Musgo. I'm Afro-Mexican, but also a Musgo. There's a lot of people that speak that dialect that would be like to be involved with those events. So my question is, would you be open to that? And then my second is I'm also the director for Neighbors Without Borders in Sacramento. I'm looking to establish some satellite shops out here. My goal is breaking down the mental barrier that, oh, my parents were drug addicts. I can't be this. I come from the hood. I can't do this. Why not? I come from the hood. I come from the mud. I come from the streets. I'm a well-represented man now. It's all the discipline, the mindset. So I'm trying to break barriers. I'm trying to work with the kids in the juvenile hall because those kids that are no good, thrown away, have the best heart, best mind, and the best attitude. So I'm willing to work with you guys. I want to represent my community. That's why I'm here. All the racism going on. I've been doing work behind the scenes for the last 3 years all over California, from San Diego all the way to Northern California. I'm ready to step up. I'm trying to annihilate and get rid of racism. That mentality is over. How do we stop racism? By labeling everyone and start calling each other we, us. It's us. It's not them. It's not him. It's us. That's where it starts. Holding people accountable. I mean, this is a beautiful tribe. I come from Southern California, like you said. I'm from Orange County, not LA. We're two different things. But my thing is here, hate stops when you call someone out on their actions, what they do. If you allow it, now you're part of that problem. So I'm here for whatever you guys want me to help. I have a couple of resources there, but my goal is to break that mental barrier and get kids into universities, not gangs and not drugs.
Thank you so
much. One more thing too. Homeless and drug addicts. People see homeless and they get mad, but I see a lost kid that a parent failed. So instead of judging them, they start saying, how can we help them? Because everyone's like, oh, that's a drug addict. It's no good. I see a dad, I see a mom, I see a grandpa, a grandma, an aunt and uncle that failed that person. So we got to start thinking differently. We got to start taking care of each other. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. And I just want to let you know that we're working right now on having the head of the National Coalition for the Homeless address hopefully our next meeting. And I was on the board of that, and I am so appreciative of you bringing that up. And you know what? Look, if I could exercise a little chair domain, because who knows, I might not have this next week. How many in the audience would think that the state would benefit from adding housed status to the hate crime statute in this state? Just a show of hands. Well, break
it down.
Sure. As a protected category, such as race, sexual orientation, gender identity, how many in the audience here this evening would favor adding housing status or being homeless to the state's hate crime statute? How many oppose? Okay, thank you.
We do have one more.
Oh, please.
We do. Yeah, we've got one more comment on Zoom.
Oh, please. Thank you.
AD, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. And you have the mic.
Thank you. Thank you for the great presentation, especially April's. Sorry, Miss Sharon's. And thank you for the commission coming to a rural conservative county. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow is the Transgender Day of Remembrance, November 20th. And my question for you all is, what is California doing to decrease the hate and policy practice rollback regarding transgender rights? You know, we can see in the media, transgender scapegoating nationally, internationally, and yes, to some degree in parts of California. And like women's rights are human rights, transgender rights are human rights. Even the governor here is retreating in some areas regarding transgender. So, and I just feel like we need to dial down this rhetoric. It's not oppression Olympics. We could say the same things about, immigrant bashing, and many other marginalized folks, but just how in general do we decrease this othering and blaming and pointing fingers and taking away folks' ability to take care of themselves and their families? And since tomorrow's the Transgender Day of Remembrance, I'm asking that specifically to the commission on what's California doing to decrease that hate.
AD, you have 1 minute.
Thanks. And a totally unrelated thing, since you pulled the room about adding homelessness to the California hate crime statute, I'm in favor of that. And I'm also in favor of adding caste, which the governor vetoed. So, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to tell you, we have a variety of things. First of all, the law in this state is very clear that it protects on the basis of gender identity. And what we've done in partnership with the Civil Rights Department, we've done this statewide victimization survey, getting literally the best minds in the nation to work on that. And we are specifically, just so you know, we're specifically pulling out a whole series and section based on transgender experiences that we're going to further examine and hopefully release in the not too distant future. So, because evidence-based data along with community experiences partner to make change in policy. And I want to just again reiterate our support for the transgender community. And let me point out one other thing. In the last national election, over $20 million was spent on anti-trans advertising alone. So we have to counter this kind of conduct because it is not something that is political. It is moral, and it is based on what our state recognizes, that all people who reside in this state are entitled to the dignity and the protection of our laws. And this commission is very serious about that. And we have among our commissioners, Bambi Salcedo, who is an internationally renowned leader in the transgender civil rights world. So I want to thank you again for pointing that out. We're not going to retreat from that. Not as long as I'm here.
Well, I'm Marilyn Trogett. I'm also on the board of directors of Shasta County Citizens Advocating Respect. And we have a program that we have taken from an organization called Right to Be. It used to be called I Holla Back, but it's called Right to Be, and it's bystander intervention training. And the prop is right here. Thank you, Susan. We will do programs in schools or to groups and so forth about how you can be an effective bystander while maintaining your own safety. And the premise is empathy, and I love working with kids because that's where they're going to learn empathy. Remember the old musical South Pacific? There's a song, you have to be carefully taught to hate the things that your relatives hate. We want to go reverse that and teach empathy and creating safe spaces. And in terms of safe spaces, I wish we would hear more about that Welcome In program that you talked about. I work in Africa, and we have worked on creating safe spaces for kids there, as in a business that you can run into if you feel like you're in danger going home from school or something like that. So anyway, empathy and to get to the kids.
Thank you.
I can speak more about Welcome In. So we actually have a few resources on our table at the front. We can get more information, and we actually were inspired by the Right to Be's bystander intervention training. So we modeled ours after that, and that's the training that we use when we work with these businesses on how they can de-escalate situations that may happen. But if you have any further questions, my colleagues and I have a resource table at the front.
Goodness. All right. Hi, good evening, everybody. Oh, sorry. Did you want to respond to anything else, Chair? Oh, my bad. Sorry. My name is Jorge Savala. Last name is S-A-V with a Victor, A-L-A, so y'all can find me. If y'all want to write down my number, it's 916-250-1144. Don't spam me. The reason I'm sharing that with you, first off, thank you for what you've shared. I drove 200 miles to be here.
Thank you.
Right. No, thank you. And when you said, go an extra meeting, this is the extra meeting. I'm like, is it going to be worth my time? And what am I going to experience? And yes, it was definitely worth my time. I have other business to do tomorrow. I come from Santa Cruz County as a seasoned trained organizer, working with Alma Mutsun tribal band there, Dr. Lopez, and doing restorative justice practices. And I used to work with state parks and Santa Cruz Mission, which was one of the worst missions in California. And I'm like, we got to do something, right? Build those bridges. So I walked with them, talked with them, and also created events and activities to highlight the realities, right? Building space and some sort of form of peace. Fast forward, I worked in COVID-19, worked on youth empowerment commissions with United Way, Keisha out there, a whole strategic planning sessions, finding hard to reach communities, bring them to the tables, transforming the justice systems. And then COVID hits. And I'm like, all right, time to go be an IAF organizer. So they asked me, where do you want to go? Fresno, LA, New Mexico, Vegas. I said Solano County to go work on the COVID-19 restorative, recovery. Fast forward, law enforcement dialogue circles, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, so here I am now in Northern California. I'm the Outreach Education and Engagement Manager with California Human Development, CHD. Run workforce programs. We're connected with the vulnerable populations that are behind the scenes. So I have brothers and sisters. I'm a he, him, his ally, right? I've walked and wore butterfly wings and painted my makeup, right? I'm all down. So I want to connect with you and other partners in this area to see how we can create some synergy, some coalitions. I don't want to recreate any wheels. Here to support, as we just had a event 3 weeks ago. I met you there, right? Where we brought a bunch of organizations, promotoras and others that are serving the communities out here between the 4 or 5 counties from Colusa, Yuba, Sutter, Butte, and Tehama. But we didn't publicize it for safety concerns. I didn't know what to expect, but we connected, we were building capacity, now we want to plug in. So let's connect.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming here.
Looks like we have another Zoom user. They just put their hand down.
There you go.
Do we have any other comments in the room or on Zoom?
On Zoom.
Okay.
Zoom user, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute, and you should be able to talk right now.
Hello?
You have 2 minutes.
Hello. Okay. My first question is that I appreciate and I want to say thank you to all of the people on the panel. One of the things that I want to address to all the different groups is that that are on the panel. I don't see any representation of the African American community on your panel board. And it all comes down to trust. And I don't believe I am working probably with Sharon and probably some other people on the board, the council, that I don't know. But one of the things that I said, my name is Abu Bakr Hassan Saladin, and I am the Imam of the Islamic Center of Reading.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me talk real fast. I can. But yes, I would like to see more, and I guess that's on our behalf, of people of color. That we have a good film coming out on the 7th of December at 5 o'clock. Named the film is Push Out, and it is a good story about our youth and being discriminated against because of their color and their by teachers who really don't have an understanding of the culture or of the students that they have in committee. I want the committee.
15 seconds left.
Okay, well, I want the panel to know that we have a community center now at 550 East Cypress Boulevard. It's called Reciprocity Community Center, and we give out free clothing and some food to the homeless people. And there's more I would like to say, but my time has run out. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for
Imam,
your
could you
comment.
just give that address one more time for people here in the room here? Some might have 500 East Cypress, was that it?
500,
550.
550
East Cypress. I stand
East Cypress.
corrected with directions again.
We're right across the street from Crown Motors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If I could just point something out, unfortunately, Dr. Errol Southers, who is a world-renowned African-American scholar and is on our commission, literally was going to fly here. There was an emergency on his campus that he had to attend to. So I apologize for that, but he tried to make it here on Zoom. So thank you. All right. Do we have?
It's hands down.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I will move, unless I am in error, to item number 3, which is public comment on item.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
I believe Ariel has something back there she wanted to say,
please.
and then I wanted to follow up with Ariel.
By all means, I'm sorry.
Ariel is the chair for my Indian Parent Committee for our Indian Education Consortium.
Ariel, floor is yours, and my apologies for
I think what she has to say is very important. That's why I wanted to.
By all means, please.
Yeah, so it's like, April, what am I supposed to write? Because I don't want to stand up and talk. Thank you for making me stand up and talk. So I emailed a comment saying how my little guy, he's 7 and gets bullied at school for his hair, but he loves wearing it down. And like recently, my daughter told me that he got called maybe a third grader, older girl, because he's in 2nd grade, and an older girl called him gay because he had long hair. And I was braiding his hair the other day, and I asked him if he ever got bullied recently or about his hair or anything. He said no. I was like, "Are you sure you can tell me if you did?" He said no. I said, okay. So I talked to my daughter again. She's like, well, why would he say that? He told me that's what happened. I was like, I don't know. But it happens a lot. Like last year, he wanted his hair cut, and his hair's probably like past his butt. We've never cut it. Trimmed it once a couple years ago, but we've never cut it. And last year he wanted to cut it off, and I asked him, why do you want to cut it off? He's like, because it's hot. And I was like, oh, well, there are other ways to go about it. So like me knowing my kids, I'm like, well, something else is going on. Why you want to cut it? What, are you getting bullied? He's like, no, no. But then he opened up to his sister saying that people are telling him that only girls have long hair, and why does he have long hair? And so I have to at home tell him like a lot of our family members, guys, have long hair, and it's sacred and we should be proud of it. And yeah, it's hard watching documentaries and showing him older men who have long hair. And yeah, so now he's better, just a little bit more bullying going on, but he's able to speak up, saying that, correct other people that he's a boy. And which is nice, because his daughter or my daughter's really mean, like, he's a boy, instead of being like nice, like, okay, yeah, he's a boy. I was like, oh my gosh. So yes, thank you.
We have one more question right up here in the front.
Thank you for being here. My name is Myra Monarch. I am a community volunteer and organizer, work a lot with the beloved community in Reciproca. My question tonight, I have so many, is does the commission have a specific approach to incentivize, maybe that's not the proper term, but please forgive me, reporting from local law enforcement agencies? Or how can they encourage local law enforcement agencies to gain the trust of local community members so they can come forward and report these types of crimes? And I'm specifically referring to tonight to the migrant communities. Thank you.
Ailey, do you want to address that, or?
I just highly encourage them to access our California versus Hate resource line and network, because at the very least they can have that support and be walked through, whatever services that they need at the time, be best directed to. And then if they choose to contact law enforcement, they can be assisted through that. But I also do, like, as a disclaimer, in all emergency situations, that's not what California versus Hate's purpose is for. But as far as California versus Hate is concerned, and as far as CRD is concerned, your documentation status does not matter to access our services.
And moreover, one of the things that I've been trying to do nationally, but is done in places like LA Special Order 40, is that if an undocumented person reports a crime, that it will not be turned over to federal authorities. And I actually have a question for if anyone from the Civil Rights Department here. Is that statewide yet? I think I don't want to say it is or it isn't, but I would encourage that. The other thing that we know is the concept of no closed door. So if people have some kind of reticence with regard to local law enforcement, calling NGOs, or as outreach to bridge through, for instance, California versus Hate or local police departments, we'd encourage that. And California versus Hate, I don't want to say how many languages it is because I always get it wrong, but it's in a lot, including Spanish. So what I'd like to get is the word out that if there is some hesitancy with respect to one particular entity, then please report it to whomever one feels comfortable with, someone in the community who can then bridge, for instance, to a Human Relations Commission or to call California versus Hate, which does offer services as well. So we're trying to bridge that, but I'll tell you something, we're hitting a big wall. And that's why this year, even though nationally we're seeing somewhat of a decline in reported hate crimes, what I'm concerned about is how much of that are people who are just darn afraid to report. And one of the things that I've done since going before the state senate in '92 was trying to get coverage under our state's law. And as you saw earlier, immigration status is covered. So if someone is victimized because of their immigration status, I'd encourage it to report, encourage these people to report. The problem is we are now seeing just the terrible impact of what's going on with ICE. And by the way, in Chicago, with all the rhetoric, I think it was only 6% of the people that were rounded up had criminal records. And moreover, that big raid on that apartment building, not one charge came out of that. And they had Black Hawk helicopters and people rappelling. So when communities are being terrorized, it's very easy for me to come up here and say that. And I recognize that. So, for instance, we've had CHIRLA, Coalition for Humane Immigrants' Rights LA, act as intermediaries. And so what I would encourage is if you don't trust one entity, please report to some entity that one does. And within local communities, if that message can go out, because years of effort of trying to bring people to do that is now being just smashed by these horrible policies which are taking place at the federal level, which people are not only not reporting crimes, they're not going to church, they're not going to schools. This is an abomination to what our nation stands for. So I want to just personally thank you for bringing that up and recognize that we do have a lot more obstacles now than we did only a year before. And one of the things that we found when we did our victimization surveys through CHIS in coordination with CRD is that the Native American community, for instance, the immigrant community and others have significantly higher rates of non-reporting. So to the extent that community folks can encourage people to report to those who they do trust, that's great. We have, again, the concept of no closed door, but I want to make sure that people understand that under our state laws and under just basic moral ethics, listen to what Pope Leo has said and the U.S. Conference of Bishops. This is an abomination of what is happening. And to the extent that if there are governmental institutions that are not viewed in the way that they were, state government, before, please encourage to have intermediaries get these voices heard. And again, we're trying to capture that from a policy standpoint by doing these very expensive but thoroughly important victimization surveys. And I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that's something that I too have been working on for decades. Interestingly enough, a good friend of mine, Luis Aragon, who is a prosecutor down in LA, down in San Diego many years ago, implemented that both with regard to state authorities and federal authorities, but that has now fundamentally changed, unfortunately. Oh, I'm sorry, please.
To make a statement, Pitt River Tribe, MMIP, Amanda Montgomery, is on her way down here, but she's not even going to make it. She's still 45 minutes out from Fall River Mills, which is another hour and a half from here. So she's coming back from the furthest borders of Pitt River country to try and make it here. So I asked her if she would please submit something to the commission. But in talking with her, I know that they have 27 tribal members missing or murdered, and they got a 28th one last week. They have a much larger membership across the nation, and those tribal members are going murdered or missing even outside of Shasta County too. And a majority of them have gone unsolved. And I reached out to the families that I knew to submit something to you guys as well. It's very trauma triggering to bring this information up for families, especially when it's so fresh. Even it could have happened, years ago, but when you start talking about it again, or you're trying to resolve case issues, it's still happening. And also with Greenville Rancheria, we only have 77 adult members, and we have 7 murdered or missing. That's like 1/10 of our adult population. And so I for sure wanted to mention that. And when Ariel was speaking about her son being bullied about his long hair, it's been happening. When I moved home 31 years ago, all my boys had long hair, and it happened when my son was in kindergarten. He's now going to be 36 years old. So it was happening then, and it's still happening. A couple weeks ago, I talked with another parent. It was happening at one of the school sites, and I didn't know that till I just inadvertently ran into her somewhere in town, and she was mentioning that. And I said, "Why didn't you call me? Call me when stuff like this happens, because I'll go wherever to whatever school." And when we were talking about schools and numbers, and I'm asking the commission to take a look at our schools here in Shasta County, because I'm told that the data goes straight to the state. I want you to look at it, and I want you to seriously look at it. What is the reporting process? Because I'm told for the last couple years, there are no hate crimes at our campuses. So please take a look at that.
Well, I'm sorry, were you referring to K through 12 or college or both?
I'm talking about Shasta Union High School District.
Got it. Thank you.
But I'll ask for the whole county if necessary.
Do we have any other comments before we move to items not on the agenda? All right. If I may, I want to thank every single one of you. This is linear. This is not hierarchical. We couldn't operate without your critical participation and observation. So thank you so much. Next, we will move on to agenda item number 3, public comment on items not on the agenda. The commission may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included on this particular agenda, except whether to decide to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. So if we may, Dr. Thomas, do we have public comments on Zoom or emailed public comments?
Yes, we have one emailed public comment. It is, what can be done to make our judicial system up here take hate crimes seriously? The lack of consequences for people who commit hate crimes is ridiculous. Can the judges be censured?
I will point out that there's a significant disparity between the numbers of hate crime cases that are referred by prosecutors, that actually get taken by prosecutors in Shasta versus Butte County, for instance. With respect to, can judges be censured? Yes, but it depends on what wrongdoing they are presented with. In fact, there was a judge, I believe, in Southern California, who was recently called out for making prejudiced statements, and so there is a process for doing so. All right, any more?
No further comments.
All right. Fernando or Lupe, do we have any public comment in the room?
I would like to point out from the point of view of the League of Women Voters that you can vote against judges. And it's your responsibility as a voter to make sure that you do vote against judges. Judges have a way of just sort of floating through on a lifetime. And so I just wanted to make that point. And I do have a real second point. And my second point was, is that there are many different ways to work with people and teach them positive ways to do things. And I do sit actually on the Building Bridges Advisory Committee, and I think it's a great program. SCAR has run a program for the past 5 years where we have a whole day workshop. I brought the book to show you, and where we actually train people to think about a problem, work through the problem. I think Kaylee was at our last one. And that's just a whole nother way. So I worry when people think there's one way to do it and not more ways. So for those of you who are in the room and would like to join us, Difficult Conversations is the name of the program. Ken Berry has worked really hard to do his art and science of working together. And we will be probably doing that in March. So just keep an eye open for us.
And is there a website or an email contact
yes.
for your organization, please? If since we have you here live,
for Kern Berry or for SCAR?
SCAR.
We will have it in the back, and we'll give you a card with all our information.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I only need a minute and 10 seconds. Thank you again for the space. I just want to say thank you to the Spanish interpreter at Me Escuchas. She is doing a phenomenal job providing simultaneous interpretation in another language is very difficult, as I've done it before for community meetings, and I like to test, see if they're on point, and they're on point. So good work. All right. Now, thank you. Yeah, let's hear it for the interpreters and also ASL. I don't know ASL, but thank you as well for whoever's partaking, as language access and breaking down barriers and access is very key, right, in the work that we do, whether it be physical, language, linguistic, or even reading and comprehension. And so I have a question, and y'all can put on an agenda in the future, but also want to offer up my services again. As next time, I would love to hear about this event somehow, get on your mailing list, whatever it may be. I specialize in community outreach engagement activities for the last 20 years, and definitely here to lend a hand and fill the room, because the Hispanic, Spanish-speaking community, it's my LGBTQ, the indigenous community, African-American community, we're all in it together. But I would like to see a bigger space, and I'll help fill it. So just saying. And that's all I got to say about that. And what I'm here to do in my new role is to bring more resources from other areas, work together, as California Human Development is qualified as a state agency. We cover 28 counties, and we are able to leverage those resources to bring in additional funding from Sacramento. So let's bring it up north. So thank you all.
Thank you. And if you go to the CRD website, there's actually a way to get on our mailing list, but I will totally destroy the correct one. So if you can Google California Commission on the State of Hate, there's actually a section there where it tells you how to get on our mailing list and alerts folks of the various meetings that are going to be on agendas. And also we have a wonderful outreach a person named Rishi who makes sure to announce these things on social media. But if you can go to the web page, which is within the Civil Rights Department for this commission, there is information on how to get on to our mailing list. So thank you. I'm already on it. That's why I don't have it right offhand. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other public comment in the room?
Thank you. How does the commission address caste-based discrimination? My understanding is that Governor Newsom vetoed SB 403. So that's my question.
Yeah, it has come up from various members of the public and a former commissioner of ours, actually, Professor Sinar. We are bound by what the statute says we can cover. That being said, to the extent that various issues or conflicts are presented, for instance, in the media or at community organizations, we're certainly aware of that. But we by virtue of our anchoring statute, are basically limited to the categories that are covered in that manner. Although I will, and I don't want to get ahead of my skis here, but I do know that this has come up in other states as well. So I guess my answer would be continue to tune in. But we are bound by the statutory provisions of our enabling legislation. So I hope that's somewhat helpful. But we are aware of what's going on in the world. Without further ado, I'm going to then, if there's no other comments either in the room, on Zoom, or by email, I'm going to transfer back to my esteemed colleague. But before I do have to take this moment. Commissioner Cuellar, you have been an indefatigable force for good in this state, both on this commission and off this commission. You are a hero of mine. And I wanted to acknowledge your incredible work that is not only so morally called for, but also exactly the type of hero we envisioned when this statute was pushed through the legislature. And on behalf, if I may, of all Californians, I want to just express my extraordinary gratitude to you for your tremendous efforts to not only assist the Native American community in the state, but every community that needs to have their voices heard, and it's heartfelt. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Levin. And again, it's not just me up here, it's my whole team. So, we all make this happen. So thank you all very much for being here today. And we definitely, I've learned a lot from you and your community and the struggles that you guys face. And just know that you are not alone. We are committed to making California a better place for everybody. And it really gives me hope to see everybody here today. And, we're going to definitely look more into northern rural California. This is just the first stop, but but we do plan on holding more community forums. We hold 4 community forums a year. So if you have not, this is the first one that you've been to, you can go on to the YouTube channel and see all the different forums that we have done throughout the year. But again, we are taking a lot of your issues and your concerns, and we are definitely noting them. We will bring those back to the commissioners, and we'll be putting that in a report every year we do an annual report. So what we've learned here today will definitely be in the report, as well as your recommendations to how we can work together to build a better California and to eradicate hate. So thank you all for being here today. And again, it gives me hope seeing everybody here. And we'll be back. And maybe in Butte County, I think that was somebody's recommendation. And Tehama, I'm hearing all these different counties that really need some support. So we are all here for you. And again, thank you also for being here. And thank you, Chair Levin, for being here with me and helping me with my public comment. But also thank you to all the wonderful presenters, all of you guys. Thank you for all the wonderful work you do. And again, thank you to the public for being here, showing up. And, again, we know that with everything that's going on, it's really scary to come out and to voice your concerns and to have your voice being heard. But that is the ultimate thing that you can do. So thank you so much for stepping up and just being here today. And I look forward to seeing you guys all again and working with you all. And I hope to get some of your numbers. I am from El Dorado County, so I'm going to be driving 2.5 hours back, but thinking about everybody and how we can all work together, especially the Hispanic community. Not only am I Native American, I'm Filipino, and I'm Hispanic as well. So, I got to give out the shout out to all my communities, and again, thank you all for being here. It's an honor. Thank you. And this meeting is adjourned at 8:39.